Welcome to Face Off today. As always, it's going to be an interesting time with you as you also try to contribute to what we're doing here in the studios, as we try to share ideas necessarily. That's what we do, not necessarily to argue, but to put forward our strong arguments, especially from our guests. Today, the Senate has rejected the President Muhammad Buhari's request for authorization to borrow about 30 billion. The President last Tuesday requested this to the National Assembly, two chambers, and if this passes through, this is supposed to be the largest external borrowing, and this is meant, according to the President, to fund fiscals and to fund infrastructural development across the country. And we're looking at the turn down by the Senate or the House of Assembly over this request by the executive. And the questions we're asking today is, how helpful is this decision to our current fiscal situation in Nigeria? How does this portray the relationship and understanding between the executive and the legislature? I have two gentlemen in the House that will be discussing this, whether or not the Senate should have done that, or whether there's maybe a snag in the relationship between the executive and the House, I should say. And I have in the House today Mr. Ismail Animu, right? Yeah. He's a public affairs analyst, and you're sympathetic to the party that lost the election in 2015.
No.
You guys lost the election in 2015.
No.
What happened?
I'm not sympathetic to the party that lost the election. I have my sympathy and bias in favor of the ruling party.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so and I have Mr. Kingsley Nwabugu, and he's also a public affairs analyst.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll take the opening statements as far as this discussion is concerned. Stay tuned. This is Face Off.
Thank you very much.
These guys will not allow me to say what I want to say back while we're behind. I wish you could hear some of the things we say when we are behind the cameras and when you can't see us. Okay, interestingly, we have two guests, like I said. To my right, I have Mr. Kingsley, and to my left, I have Mr. Ismail. That's how it's spelled, or pronounced, rather.
Yeah,
and you think what the Senate has done is in order?
Yes, absolutely.
And you're smiling.
I'm smiling.
Do you work for them or consult for them? Okay, let me just have your opening statement as far as because so we can.
My honest assessment on this is it's pretty simple. It's basic procedure, as basic as putting the horse before the cart. If you are going to send details of such a wonderful idea, grandiose, and all of that, if you're going to send such a plan to the House, shouldn't you send the details with it? It's as simple as that. It's almost a no-brainer.
Let me hear Ismail's position on this, and so we can, perhaps one of you would choose to ask each other the question on why they took the position. Ismail.
Well, if you ask me, the Senate in its wisdom threw it out, but I think there would have been other avenues to addressing it, like getting the presidential liaison officer to the Senate to provide the details rather than outrightly throwing it out. The word throw out sounds very hostile, sounds very unfriendly, and I think there are more mild ways.
I don't know how well your ear is good, but did you hear him do more like I hear you?
Yes.
It's okay.
Rather than throw out, why not ask the presidential liaison officer to the Senate to provide the details needed for that loan request to be properly scrutinized?
We're really going to take this, we're really going to drill down. So let's start with the first things first.
Yes. I mean, he has posed a very interesting question, but maybe we are going further down the food chain. Let's start from the top of the food chain. Why did you send it there in the first place without the entire details? Isn't that the first principle of everything?
Well, without
how do you excuse that?
Without attempting to hold brief for the Senate, I don't think there is any perfect system anywhere in the world. And the principles of separation of powers.
I don't like your responses. Maybe you should be saying in such a manner like, this is your God. They are saying to my ears.
Principles of separation of powers, checks and balances also dictates that the Senate should do what it has done, but it would have rather done it in a more, let me use the word, decent way.
Okay.
So does this translate to frugality or suggest any indifference? Is there any reason why they just absolutely turn it out?
Well, I don't want to subscribe to this notion that one arm of government is frugal than the other. If we had complained in the past that there is waste in governance, there is extravagance in the way the state of affairs is being run, it is not peculiar with any arm of government. I don't think the Senate is implying that the executive is wasteful or is prodigal in its approach to spending national resources. I subscribe very much to the reality that we are in dire need of that loan, and that loan will go a very long way to put this economy in its right state.
Okay, frugality or not, it's a case of, I've always take a stand, procedure, and you can't really get over procedure. Here we are.
Who has become overbearing here?
I would
just as you hold the thoughts about frugality on one hand.
I'll overbearing. I think it's the executive. Here's why. It almost seems as if
what kind of reaction is that?
It's a procedure.
It seems as if we're looking for a rubber stamp. So, hey, where are my brothers? Here you are. There you go. Stamp it. Let's get on with it. It just doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
Well, I have taken time to peruse the quality of persons we have in the National Assembly, and I'm convinced that you don't have a rubber stamp legislature.
Absolutely.
Nigeria.
So why then send stuff in that way?
There is no perfect document anywhere.
This is not even a perfect document. This is an incomplete document.
Good. And there are processes. There are processes.
If you are going to
take
a loan
officer relating with the Senate of
if you're going to take a loan
you don't
that is going to mortgage the next, say, 30 years, mortgage, put it very nicely. Yes, maybe for good, calm down, for good intentions and all of that. We've always had grandiose plans. We've always planned to do our railways and all of that. And I'm not going to shy away from the fact that we need all of that. That is true, and that is nice, and that is great. But if you're going to do that in a change era, shouldn't you start by detailing everything in black and white?
Well, like I will say, I'm not the spokesperson for government, but
you're stammering.
No, it's my nature anyway.
Okay. It's your nature when you're overwhelmed.
Well, the executive arm of government had gone through the procedure, and I think it's in a bid to achieve faster results that they sent it there. In making things work, rather than throwing it out, they would have just asked for proper explanation of how the loans would have been disbursed, for what purpose is the loan being sought, what is the interest rate.
We have, to be fair to the executive, we do have some very interesting headlines. We have the Mambila project, which is long overdue. We've got a couple of railway lines, which is also very good. But those are just headlines. What about the nitty-gritty of these?
That is what will be done. That is what will be done. We mustn't make it appear as if governance is a warfare.
Governance isn't warfare, but it's also not rocket science.
Is there a political undertone to this sending and rejecting?
That's my point.
I refuse to see politics in all of this.
Yes. Is there a political undertone of?
For me, I refuse to see politics in
and rejecting. They send you.
I'm not seeing politics in
I think I have to agree with him on that count, because I can't speak for all of them in the House. I don't know how they want to play of this. Interestingly, the voice vote was very unanimous. So it's not a case of some people were shouting on one side and some other people were shouting on the other side. It was a clear no. So your question, we can't see the future. We can't see.
How did they all come to shout yes or no at the same time, and it was unanimous?
Maybe you should be asking the senators.
Yeah, because I mean, you are speaking. I mean, in supposedly in terms that support the fact that the reasons why they did what they did was noble.
You see, we're looking at people who have come through, at least conservatively, they've seen the last 40 years of Nigeria's history and life cycle. So they've understood what we have, our romance with loans, our romance with projects, our romance with grand ideas. And they are sitting at the cusp of it and having to take decisions as regard the next set. So if you look at the figures as it stands, 11 billion external debt which you have, 30 billion to that is going to racket up to 41 billion. If you want to sit down...
Dollars.
Dollars, we're not talking naira. So if you want to see
$1 billion.
$1 billion. So if you are meant to sit over that and be the Pontius Pilate in this instance, what happens? Do you just wash your hands off it and say, let it through?
We need that
Get
loan
it
and we
later?
need it fast.
That is not.
We have an economy that is suffocating. We have an economy that is in
so
dire
fast
need
that we
of
just
a lifeline.
don't want to do it
We must
properly.
not begin to subject ourselves to long politics and procedures
This is not
that will
politics,
that will
this is just
delay the entire
procedures.
process.
This is why the
of
president
this whole
asked
thing.
for extra powers.
Maybe
Because I mean,
No,
Maybe-
we see, that's another thing. There's a reason that systems we have separation of power and you operate the system we operate now. There's a reason. When you design a circuit as an engineering person, you have a fuse in there. There's a reason it's there. So if you now decide and say, oh, the circuit or the fuse is too much of a problem and you want to bypass it, what you're looking for is to overload the system.
Maybe I need to draw your attention to certain things. You agree with me that we are here to get power right.
True.
And we have been revolving around this cycle, gyrating over the years. If we need this loan to get it right, I can assure you that fixed power in Nigeria can cause a revolution in the textile industry that holds the potential to produce not less than 20 million employment in Nigeria, direct and indirect.
Sounds very wonderful, but let's be realistic here, right? Mambila project, which is the power project there, is talking more about generation. As it stands now, on our best day, we cannot transmit 8,000 megawatts. On our best, I mean, it's Christmas, Santa Claus has been in town and he has blessed our transmission network. We can't transmit 8,000 megawatts.
You're very mischievous.
I'm just being real here.
No, maybe he's a pessimist.
I'm not being, no, I'm not, no,
Your pessimism, you are
My
not
point, I mean, it was on your station this week. We had this lady, Matilda, I can't quite remember her surname, and she was talking about the reality of it. And she said 20,000 megawatts is not possible.
It's the MD.
Exactly. 20,000 megawatts is just not possible by 2020. That is 2020.